We keep telling women to speak up. We keep telling women to report abuse. We keep telling women to leave relationships, right? We keep telling women, oh, you stop making excuses, choose yourself. But what happens when a woman finally gathers the courage to leave and the shelter she planned to run to has already been closed? What happens when she calls for help and she is told, oh, we don't have any space left. The waiting list is full. The program has lost its funding. Or they say, we can't help you right now. According to UN Women, at least 1 million women and girls have lost access to official support since January 2025. 1 million. Not because their needs disappeared, not because violence ended, not at all. Not because the women became suddenly safer. Nope, that wasn't even the case. They lost access because the organization that was supposed to support them are losing funds. They are reducing services, turning women away, and preparing to close their doors. So therefore, I have a question. Where exactly are we expecting these women to go to? Let's think about that for a moment. Where exactly do we want all these women that are being denied these services? Where do we want them to go to?
Stand in your power, own every minute, every hour. This is your story, starting now. Stand in your power, let the world see how. Stand in your power, stand in your power now. Turn up your voice, your truth, your wow. Stand in your power, this is your channel now.
Welcome back to Yes Life Coaching, Women Stand in Your Power. This is where we look beyond the headlines. We decode what the story really means for women and discuss how women can protect their lives, reclaim their voices, and really stand in their power. When we hear the words humanitarian fund cutting or fund cuts, they sound distant, right? They sound like, oh, politics. They sound like budget meetings, government reports, international organizations, and numbers that have nothing to do with our everyday lives. But behind every funding cut is a human consequence. It may be a pregnant woman who now has to travel for hours because her local healthcare facility has closed. It may be a survivor of SA who cannot access medical treatment or trauma counseling. It may also be a mother standing outside of a shelter with her children only to discover that there are no beds available. It may be a woman who has finally decided to leave an abusive relationship but no longer has access to safe housing, legal assistance, childcare, transportation, and financial support. These are not budget decisions. These decisions eventually reach a woman's front door. Recently, in July 2026, the UN Women released a report called Beyond the Breaking Point. The report was based on responses from 855 women-led and women's rights organizations across 52 crisis and conflict-affected countries. Now, these are organizations working on the front line. They provide shelter, they operate safe places, they support survivors of gender-based violence, they connect women to healthcare, they connect them to counseling, legal referrals, food, financial assistance, and livelihood opportunities. I, talking to you here, I'm a beneficiary of one of those. These are often the organizations that women trust, but they understand because they understand the language, because they understand the community, the culture, and the reality that women are facing. But now, these organizations are now sounding the alarm, and the UN Women reports that at least 1 million women and girls have lost access to critical support since January 2025. Around 120 women and girls worldwide currently require humanitarian assistance and protection. Nearly 9 out of 10 organizations have surveyed, and they say they can no longer meet the current level of needs. 2 in 5 organizations expect to close temporarily within the next year. 2% say that safe spaces for women and girls have either closed or been significantly reduced. And half of the organizations surveyed have introduced waiting lists. Let that sink in. That means women are being turned away. Women are still arriving. The abuse is still happening. The displacement is still happening. The pregnancies are still happening. The hunger is still happening. The trauma is still happening, but the doors are closing. The doors are closing. Just imagine that, envisage that, and let's look at it through the Yes Life Coaching lens, our Yes lens. The visible story is that the humanitarian and foreign aid budgets are being reduced or they are being left severely underfunded. Governments may explain their decision pointing to budget cuts, economic pressure, and what have you. Those explanations may be part of the conversation, but they don't erase the consequences. There are consequences because when funding for women organizations, reproductive health care, shelters, and gender-based violence services disappear, women and girls experience the impact directly. This does not mean that every person who approves a funding reduction is intentionally trying to harm women. No, we must be responsible with our words, but we must also be honest about the outcome and the consequences. You see, budget decisions can have deeply gendered consequences, regardless of how these decisions are described. Okay, now let's look at the hidden consequences. The hidden consequences are that the women are losing the bridges that make escape, protection, and recovery possible. We often talk about courage, right? As though courage alone is enough. We say, if she really wanted to leave, she would leave. Easier said than done. If it was really true, if it were really that bad, she would have gone. Easier said than done. Oh, she has to stop being afraid. Easier said than done. We usually say, but leave. But leave. Why can't you leave? And the question is, if you leave, where do you go? How does she pay for transportation? Where will she sleep tonight? Who will watch her children while she searches for work? What happens if her immigration status is connected to this abusive partner? What happens if he controls every bank account? What happens if he has destroyed her credit, taken debt out of her name, or prevented her from working? What happens if he has threatened to harm her and her children? What happens if leaving is the moment where he becomes most violent? And what happens when she finally reaches out for professional help and discovers that the organizations that are supposed to help are no more being funded? Yes, courage is necessary, but courage without resources can become a choice between danger, life and death, between one danger and another. We need to stop using the just leave quote as though it is a simple or complete safety plan. Leaving an abusive relationship is not always one dramatic moment where the woman packs her bag, walks through the door, and immediately starts a new beautiful life. For many women, living is a process. It may involve secretly saving money, gathering identification documents, finding somewhere safe for the children. It could also involve changing password, documenting the threat, speaking with an advocate. Listen, living it embodies a lot of things. It involves learning whether the abuser is monitoring her phone, understanding her legal rights, also preparing for retaliation. It involves creating a plan that does not alert the person that is trying to control her. So a woman who has not left yet is not automatically weak, and we shouldn't judge her. She may be calculating the risk every single day. She may be trying to determine which decision is most likely to keep her and her children alive. She may be waiting for an opportunity that outsiders cannot see. We should never romanticize staying in danger, but we must stop confusing survival strategy with weakness, because they are two different things, okay? They are two different things. Now, let's look at the power distortion in this story, this whole story we are talking about. The truth is, society demands bravery from women while they are withdrawing some of the resources that women need to act on that bravery. We tell women to report SA, but trauma services are being reduced. We tell women to leave abusive homes, but shelters have waiting lists. So where do they go to? We tell women to become financially independent, but livelihood programs are losing funds. We tell women to seek legal protection, but specialized advocacy and legal support may not be accessible. We tell displaced women to protect their daughters, but safe places for girls are also closing. We praise courage in public while removing the infrastructure that makes courage survivable. Now, this is the contradiction we need to confront. Empowerment cannot mean placing the entire burden on the woman. The woman can build confidence. She can strengthen her boundaries. She can also learn to use her voice. She can begin to prioritize manipulation. She can begin to recognize manipulation and abuse, but she cannot personally replace a shelter. She cannot personally create functioning legal system. This woman cannot personally fund the hospital. She cannot personally provide every woman in crisis with safe housing, childcare, food, and professional protection. This is where institutional responsibility matters, and they really well do matter. Thing is, both things can be true at the same time. Let's now look at the roles of these women-led organizations. Okay, they are often among the first to respond during crisis. I can testify to that. Okay, they know which woman has suddenly stopped attending community meetings. They may recognize when a young girl is at risk. They understand the cultural pressure that prevents women from speaking publicly. They know how abuse may be hidden behind religion, behind family honor, behind financial dependence, or even community expectations. They can often reach women from larger organizations cannot reach. And many of these organizations remain after the television cameras leave and international attentions have moved to another crisis. Yet, they are frequently expected to do life-saving work without funding. Some workers are continuing without pay. Some organizations are reducing services in remote countries or communities. Others are creating wait lists, and some of them are preparing to close completely. Now, when one of these organizations closes, we do not simply lose an office. We lose trust. We lose community knowledge. We lose relationship. We lose safe pathways that may have taken years to build. The woman or the women lose somewhere they believe they could turn to. This is happening everywhere. It's not happening somewhere else. It may be tempting to hear the words humanitarian crisis and imagine that this story belongs only to women living in countries that are affected by war or mass displacement. No, the deeper lesson applies everywhere, every country, even in wealthy countries. Women are also turned away from shelters because there are no available beds. Women remain trapped because housing is unaffordable. Women struggle to obtain legal representation. Women are financially controlled by their partners. Women fear losing custody. Even in this country, they fear losing custody of their children. A lot of women with disability face transportation and accessibility barriers. Women in religious communities, let's talk about that one. They may be pressured to remain silent to protect the image of the family, of the marriage, or the church. The truth is, the scale may be different in different places. The systems may be different, but the question still remains the same. When a woman asks for help, does meaningful help actually exist? That's a question that we need to ask. And there are some truths that we also need to tell ourselves. One of the truths is asking for help is an act of power. But government, communities, institutions, and organizations must make that meaningful help very much available. A woman should not be shamed because she could not live according to someone else's timeline. She should not be judged because she returned to the relationship. She should not be blamed because the shelter was full. No, she should not be called foolish because she feared homelessness. She should not be accused of lacking courage when she was trying to just protect her children. And she should never be made responsible for the failure of the system that was supposed to protect her. Now, the woman is not the funding cut. The woman is not the closed shelter. The woman is not the broken legal system. Neither is she the waiting list. The woman is a human being who is attempting to survive circumstances that many people have never experienced. So let's stop judging women that give some excuses for why they return to some relationships. Okay? Power begins with clarity, and standing in your power does not always begin with a public confrontation. Sometimes Power begins quietly. It begins when you say to yourself, this relationship is hurting me. When you say to yourself, this behavior is not normal. When you say to yourself, I am being controlled. My money is being used against me. Why am I constantly afraid of this person? I have lost myself so much that I no longer recognize myself. Oh, with all of these, I need support. That is clarity. And clarity is power, because confusion keeps women trapped. When someone repeatedly hurts you and then convinces you that you caused it, clarity becomes an act of resistance. When someone controls your money and calls it love, clarity helps you name the economic abuse. When someone isolates you and claims they are protecting you, clarity helps you recognize control. So we need clarity in all of this. When someone threatens you and then apologizes with gift, clarity helps you see the pattern. You may not be able to change your entire situation today, but you can begin telling yourself the truth today. You can begin gathering information. You can begin identifying trustworthy people. You can begin protecting important documents where it is safe to do so. You can begin learning about professional resources that are available in your area. You can also begin rebuilding your inner voice. A strategic step is still a step. A quiet decision is still a decision. A safety plan is not cowardice. You taking time to prepare does not mean that you have accepted what is happening to you. It only means that you are being strategic. And I have a message for women. Any woman watching this, any woman watching this video who feels trapped, I want you to hear this. You are not weak because your situation is complicated. No. You are not foolish because you still have feelings for someone who has hurt you. You are not a failure because you have not left yet. You are not responsible for another person's decision to abuse, threaten, manipulate, or control you. And please, if you are watching this, do not allow people who have never lived your reality to reduce your entire life to 2 words. Just leave. Your life deserves more care than that. Your safety deserves more strategy than that. Your children deserve more protection than that. What else do I have to say here? Your future deserves more planning than that. Yes, you have professional support. Where professional support is available, reach for it carefully and also safely. If you believe your phone or your internet activity is being monitored, use a safer device when seeking information. And when you are in immediate danger, contact emergency services or a qualified domestic violence organization in your location whenever it is safe and possible for you to do so. See, you deserve support that recognizes both your courage and the complexity, your circumstances. That I do believe. And let's talk about what must change. You see, I'm beginning to see that we need a broader definition of women's empowerment. It cannot be only motivational speeches telling women to be stronger. It must include safe housing. It must include good healthcare. It must include things like legal protection, financial resources, childcare for the woman, education. It might include a lot of things, transportation for the disabled woman, therapy, trauma-informed services. Now, organizations that understands women's experiences and stable funding for people doing this work on the front line provide all of that. We need to begin to hold institutions accountable without removing women's personal agency. We need to encourage women without blaming them for the systemic failures. We need to teach courage while also building the bridges that allow women to use the courage safely. Because when a woman finally asks for help, the answer should not be, oh, the doors are closed. We have a waiting list. You would have to wait. That shouldn't be the answer. There should be immediate response. Okay? At Yes Life Coaching, we help women rebuild clarity, confidence, boundaries, and personal agency. Now, I want you to understand something. Coaching is not a replacement for emergency services, legal assistance, medical care, or mental health treatment. Coaching cannot provide crisis intervention. But where it is safe and appropriate, coaching can help a woman recognize unhealthy patterns, reconnect her with her identity, voice back, strengthen her voice, clarify her boundaries so that she can begin to think strategically. You do not have to disappear inside your pain. You do not have to define yourself by what happened to you. You are still worthy. You are still valuable, sis. Your voice still matters. And with the right professional support, resources, strategy, and community, I believe that you can begin to find yourself, your way back to yourself. Visit Yes Life Coaching to learn more about our coaching services. And I want you to schedule a discovery conversation. Okay. Again, in the comment section, if you're watching, respectfully answer all these questions. Can we honestly tell women to leave abusive situations if we are not willing to fund the shelter, healthcare, legal services, and financial support? Let's keep the conversation compassionate in the comment section, because there may be survivors reading the comments who are still trying to understand what is happening in their own lives. Share this video with someone who believes that leaving an abusive relationship is always simple. It's never simple. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notification for more conversations that help women recognize their worth, reclaim their voices, and stand in your power. Until next time, your situation may be complicated, your journey may require strategy, but your life still belongs to you. Woman, stand in your power. I would see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye.